So let's go to our next speaker, Mana. Mana, would you like to quickly introduce yourself again, if you don't mind?
Sure. Let me make sure my slides will get on the screen as well. I think there we go.
Yes, we can see
Okay,
it. And thank you again, Marina, for your presentation.
thank you. Very interesting presentation. So, this is me. I am Maddie, or my full name is Sugiyoshi Mana. I am a front-end engineer at Goodpatch, a design agency, and please add me on Twitter or LinkedIn if you would like. I'm happy to connect with people and chat about tech stuff anytime. That's me. And who am I and why am I here today, basically? If you saw in my previous slide, today I'm going to be talking about how to conduct an accessibility audit. So I am a front-end engineer, but my specialty is in web accessibility. So why am I talking about that today? If you see this picture on the left, that's me as a child. And this device that I am using here is called a TTY. And this is in the age before smartphones. So this device, usually the phone would be connected to it on top. I'm just playing with it here. But it's a device that allows people who are deaf to communicate with other people. So my grandparents were deaf, and so I used this device to communicate with them. It was sort of like texting in ye olden times. Now, obviously, we have smartphones, so this device is less useful now. Yeah, and this is my dad's office. He was a career counselor for people with disabilities. So from a young age, I was exposed to people with disabilities, and it was kind of just a regular thing for me. Um, this middle picture is a dial-up internet. I don't know if anyone here is old enough to remember that, but in the olden days, when you connected to the internet, it would make this sound like so what I'm trying to say with this one is that that's how long I've been playing around on the internet is from a long time ago. So I like to say that I have over 20 years of experience when I'm joking. But as for my official career, I started it in the United States more than oh gosh, how many years ago? More than 9 years ago or so. And in the United States, they have very strict laws about accessibility, and they have very scary lawyers who are very aggressive about going after you if you are not compliant with accessibility. So, as a front-end engineer, it was always sort of an expected part of my job to handle accessibility. So that's why I'm here today. That's so I'll go over very briefly what is web accessibility, just in case anyone here is not super familiar. Um, I'll share how to prep for an audit, and then I'll show you how I test, and then I'll tell you what to do after we've done the test. So, what is accessibility? So it comes from two words, access and ability. Basically, having the ability to access something is the word. And it's the practice of creating web contents that are usable for all, regardless of disability, age, or other factors. So we often hear about usability, right? UX is considered to be very important. But if you look at this nice diagram here, at the foundation, we have accessibility, right? Before we can even think about, is it easy to use? Is it nice to use? Do we trust it? Do we have fun using it? Can we even access it in the first place, right? Is can we even get the information or the tools or the functions of what it is? We have to think about that before we can think about, is it nice to use or is it easy to use, right? Can we even begin using it, right? So that's why I like to think of, accessibility at the foundation of all the other things that we consider to be important for the web. So enough about accessibility. If you want to know more about it, I'll put this Wikipedia link in the chat. Obviously, I'm sure everyone here knows how to Google, but let's get right into it. So before testing for accessibility, we have to sort of define the scope. And the point of view that I'm talking from here is if we're going to be doing a full audit of a website, right? So we want to determine what is our conformance target. We're going to be testing against JIS, which is a Japanese technical standard. Are we going to be going for WCAG? And if so, which level, which version? What is the website coverage? Do we have a page list of pages that we need to cover? Do we have a set of user flows? And what's the support baseline, which browsers, which devices, which assistive technologies? So are we going to be testing screen readers? Do you want to cover also other types of devices that people use to assist them? Don't worry, there actually is the WCAG again, which I just sort of flew into here, is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. The people who create this also create this evaluation methodology, which I'll share in the chat. And this is sort of, they have a guide that sort of will walk you through sort of creating this scope. And also they have a report tool as well. So if you wanted to report your findings, they sort of have this thing that you can go through and fill out. And that'll help you sort of make things clear before you start. And then before you start testing, it might be a good idea to also publish a web accessibility statement on your website. A web accessibility statement is a public-facing document that communicates your commitment, your current level, or the level that you're wanting to achieve of accessibility, and how users can get assistance if needed. So people who are concerned about web accessibility, maybe they're using these assistive devices, often they come to this type of page to sort of get an idea of like, okay, what level of things am I going to be able to do on this website? And who can I reach out to if I need help using this website? So this is a good thing to put out there before you start doing a testing, just to sort of, also it's good PR for your company as well. So, and this here is an example of my company's web accessibility statement that you can see is in Japanese, but if you know, it's here. And then now we're ready to pick a tool. So there's so many tools out there for testing web accessibility. So many, in fact, that they made this list of tools, which currently there are 44 on this list. You may have heard of Lighthouse, X, Wave, Accessibility Cloud, etc. Personally, I don't recommend Lighthouse for any sort of serious testing. I know they have like a nice score that they put out, but I don't recommend that for benchmarking or any sort of KPI because I'll explain it in a bit, but that number is not so reliable for any significant measurement, in my opinion. So the tool that I use is Axe DevTools Pro. They have a free version as well, and which I was using for many, many years. But I was able to convince my company to invest in the Pro version, so that's what I'm using now. And there are three main steps that I go through when testing. First is the automated testing. And then there's an AI assisted testing, which you can get through the Pro version of Axe. They call it IGT. And then finally, manual testing. So you might be wondering, why do we need manual testing? Why not just do everything automated? We love automation. We love, things that we can spend less time on, right? However, the current fact is that only 20 to 30% of the accessibility issues are covered by automated testing. So that's why I said the score that you're getting from Lighthouse is, so let's say you get a score of 80 on accessibility from Lighthouse. What that really means is you have an 80 of the 20 to 30%. And Lighthouse checks actually less things than other tools. So I'd say probably closer to 20%. So you have a score of 80 on 20% of the issues is what that is. So that's why I say it's not a very good benchmark or KPI to use. It's nice if you just want to check out things very quickly and see what's up, but I wouldn't use it for any sort of serious audit. And nowadays with AI and stuff, you can get the sort of automated part or AI assisted part up to be maybe closer to 40%. But still, we need human manual testing for the majority at this time. I hope it would be nice if AI can do everything for us someday. But in the current state of things, it's not a fact. So let's go ahead and jump right into the demo. I'm going to show you how this works. Here, let me share the world's least accessible website. This is not me dissing them. They made this website on purpose to be bad for this purpose of testing. So here we have the page. It's very long. Let me open my AxDev tools. You can see it's here in the Chrome DevTools. They have this new beta function where you can do a user flow analysis. So it's not necessarily based on this page, but you can define a user flow and it'll test based on that. You can test the full page or you can test a partial page as well. So let's just go ahead and test the full page. This might take a little bit because this is quite a large page with many, many errors on it on purpose, as you can see. But basically, this is the automated testing. Sorry that it's in Japanese. That is my default browser language. And you can see here I've got 23 issues. 13 of them are critical, and 10 of them are considered to be serious. So then you can go down and check out each issue, and it will give you the description in your language of your choosing. If you need more information, they also have these pages that have more description, how to fix the problem, why does this matter, a description of the rule, who does this affect, and what standard is this a part of, things like that. So, very, very helpful here, especially if you wanted to share this with someone. Like if you're just creating a list of issues, you can link these to the developers who are actually going to go through and fix these issues. Then it'll have the description of how to actually fix it for them. And then it gives you where the element is located, and you can even use this to have it focus on the element as well. And then you can share the issue. This will give you a link to actually share the details, again, with someone, a PM or a developer, what have you. Okay, and this is just the automated testing part. So now from here, we'll get into what is included with the Pro. So I'm going to save this test, and this will allow me to get into the AI-assisted testing, which they call intelligent guided tests. And for this, I'm not going to do the whole page because that would be very, very long. So I'm going to open this one, and I'm going to run here. They have these different types of assisted testing. I'm going to try the keyboard one. So I'll just start a keyboard run here, and it's going to go through this page. Dun, dun. and it recorded 0 tab stops, right? And next it says we didn't record any tab stops, but we feel like these 3 elements probably should be tab stops, meaning that they should have computer focus, right? So let's see where they mean here, right? And here and here. And then it'll ask you, like, is this correct? So sometimes the AI will find something that they think should be a keyboard stop or should be an error, and then it's actually not. And then it'll ask you to confirm that or not. So in this case, they are correct. So I want to keep these selected. And if I didn't agree with one of them, I would click this icon here to remove it, right? So then we'll go next, and it adds these 3 issues for me. And then I would go through and again do all of these different tests for the page. And as you can see, the IGT is now 14% complete. And if I go back to the overview, you see I now have 26 issues where we had 23 before, because we just added 3, right, through these tests. So I'm just going to, for viewing's sake, say that none of these are on this page. So you can, if they're not existing on this page, you can mark them as not applicable, right? So now we've got the IGT up to 100%. Woohoo! So this is now where I move into the remaining testing, which is the manual testing. And again, this will be based on what level you're testing against. Currently, my settings are at WCAG 2.2A. So there's A, AA, and AAA. A would be the lowest level, so currently I'm testing at A. And for the manual testing, they give you this nice, I just opened that, didn't I? They have this nice list of things that you should be manually testing. And so I would go through these one by one and make sure that I'm testing for them. And then some of these are A, some of them are AA, some of them are AAA. So it takes some knowledge to know those things as well, and know which parts to test for your scope. This would be where I'm opening up the different screen readers. On this Mac, I have VoiceOver, but one of the more popular one is NVDA, which is on a Windows PC. So I would also use a Windows PC and then test that screen reader on all of the applicable pages or user flows. And then once I have finished that, then I would come back here. If I found something in my manual testing, I can also add that here. So I can click here to say add manual issue, and maybe I would search for something. This is going to be made up, but I'm saying, okay, I found an accessible name missing through my manual testing, and I found it here. And so you would point out where in the code it is, and then you would, this says save. Sorry, this says save in Japanese, so I would put in these details, and then I would save this issue. And then you can see now it's gone from 26 to 27. This is, again, part of my report. So let's say I finished all the manual testing. I click here, complete. Now that's 100% done. And I can now export these issues into a CSV or a JSON. I can share the test record in a link like this. And it has all the issues here, and they can go through and check these individually as well. It includes the screenshots, so I don't have to do those myself either. It has saved me a lot of time. It's still a very intense activity, but with the Pro version, I have saved myself a lot of time, especially these guided tests where, for example, the keyboard stops. I would go through using my own keyboard before and making sure the keyboard is stopping everywhere that it should be, right? And on a long page, that can take a lot of time as well. Things like checking modals and tables has become a lot easier with tools like these. So that's sort of the gist of how I would go through testing. And then, of course, I would then create a report for a nice report using the data that I've gotten from this tool, and then hand that over to the website owner. So now you've done your test. Right, now what? Well, you can now publish your results on your website, because again, this is very helpful for the people who are using your website. It's a nice PR as well. And I'll show you what that looks like. It looks like this web accessibility test result. This is from a test conducted in June. It was published in August. And this has the conformance level. So this is the JIS, the Japanese text standard here, and which corresponds to WCAG as well. And we have passed a portion of level A, what it says here, and it was tested on this website. And these technologies are included on this website, the period of the test, and then here's sort of the table of results. And this is each issue inside of the WCAG, the guidelines, and then what level that is, whether it was applicable or not, and if it was pass or fail. Right, and then a list of all the pages that were checked during this test. So this is just like, this is not a requirement, obviously, but it's something nice that you can do to show people, hey, we did this test and here are the results. And there are companies that publish these regularly. So let's say they made some improvements and they want to show that, or they made some renewals or they added some pages and they want to show that those are still accessible as well. And this is reachable from the earlier policy page that I showed before in this list of test results. And that's not the end. You're like, okay, great, we tested the accessibility, we published the results, we're done. We're done with accessibility. You guys are testers, I think. So I think you know that if you test one time, you're not done for the right, like 100% approved, no more testing needed, yay. Accessibility and testing as well is a process, not a project. So you need to address first the issues that you found. Perhaps you can do this by, adding those bugs into a sprint, or you can do a complete renewal, do a complete overhaul, and make sure that you do it right the next time around. You can also do user testing with people who are actually using assistive technologies to ensure that you're covering all different types of users. And then you can also do internal training to make sure that your developers and your designers and your PMs and what have you have a good understanding of accessibility going forward. So that they know these things from the beginning. And this is what we call the shift left, so that we don't get into this pattern of doing a huge test and then doing a huge, bug fixing. But if we educate and make sure that people are aware of these issues, then they can build that into their design, build that into the code from the beginning, and that we have, so, in my opinion, QA and is quality assurance, so that, and my expectation is the things that you give to QA should be quality, or what you expect to be some level of quality. And they're just assuring that. It's like, thank you for giving us this quality. We have assured that it is quality. It's not, we're not checking for quality. That's what QA does. No. We also check for quality. We checked it to our best ability, and now QA is double checking that quality for us. That's my opinion. So any questions? That's my talk. Let's see. Here are the questions. Where do you see Japan in terms of accessibility maturity? Is it different on hardware and software? Yes, it is. So the WCAG, the guidelines that I talked about, that is specifically for the web. The JIS, the Japanese Industrial Standards, covers not only the web, but also physical objects, buildings, elevators, and stuff like that. So I think in terms of outside accessibility, I think Japan is doing a very good job. If you're in Japan, you've seen those yellow strips with the bumps on the road. Those are actually for the blind. And people are like, oh, the lights signals, they make sounds, and that's so cute. That's also for the blind to let them know, like, it's okay to walk now. They'll know, depending on the change in the sound, that, okay, now the green line is blinking and maybe I should hurry up, or maybe I should wait to cross until the next one. So in terms of that type of stuff, I think Japan is actually, especially, well, in Tokyo anyway, the big city is very well developed. Web accessibility, I think we're getting there. The law is not as strict as in other countries. And I think that's typical of Japanese law in general. It's more of a, please, please, please do the thing. Please care about accessibility, thanks. But I think, that can work for Japan. I don't think we need to have the same approach as other countries necessarily. I think Japan is going to solve these issues in a way that will work for Japan. And I do see a lot more people interested in this topic recently. There are so many events related to accessibility every month. So it's definitely something that is gaining momentum. So I'm positive personally. Okay, next question. Did you add accessibility tests to your pipeline? If so, how to manage complaints, since it would block a lot? So currently I'm working in client work, so I don't have my own pipeline per se, but previously when I was in a more of an enterprise development situation, there's Axe Core, which is what is actually behind Lighthouse as well, and that's something that you can add to your build. I think the one way to not make people so angry is if you set it as a warning instead of an error, right? So a warning will let them know, hey, the thing, but an error will totally block the build, right? So if you want to start by just adding them in as warnings, then people won't be mad that you've totally blocked their build from being pushed, but they'll know that you're watching them, right? And I think also educating people after you put those in or while you're putting those in, like, hey, here's what these things are checking. Here's how we can avoid these, rather than just secretly putting in there and be like, why aren't you doing this when you have no knowledge of these things, right? So I think education is also an important part. And I think, developers are usually very happy to learn new things and take on new challenges. So if you frame it in a way like, okay, here's a new challenge for us, here's a new thing that we can overcome, let's work on this together, then that'll be good. Should programmers fix every bug in accessibility tools find? Are all the errors valid? So this is where it really helps to have an accessibility expert, such as myself. No, someone who knows, like, okay, this is a false positive, right? So this says it's an error, but because I know my site and I know why this thing is this way, and I know that this is actually not an accessibility error, we can disregard this automated flag. So it really helps to have someone like that. And if you don't have someone like that on your team, there are a lot of companies that you can reach out to and have someone come on for consulting, such as myself. And they can help you with that. They can help you with training and get to that place where you can understand that. Should you fix every bug? You should fix every valid bug, in my opinion. But there is, especially with a tool like Axe, they do have, like I showed you before, they have the severity levels, so critical, serious, moderate, and not important. I think there's a different word they have for that, but like less important. And so I try to address things in sort of that order. If you are dealing with something that is trivial, that's the word, trivial. Yes. If you're dealing with something, again, in a country like the United States, let's say you offer your service in the United States or the EU or Canada, where they have stricter laws, but especially the United States, then you are really going to want to make sure that you address almost every bug, because the lawyers will come for you. And there's nothing more expensive than dealing with lawyers in the United States. So, yeah, that's my take on that. How to show the company that the extra hours improving accessibility is important. Yes, so I'm actually writing on this topic, but people always talked about the cost of investing in testing even, or in accessibility, and I like to frame it in the way of like, what's the cost of not investing in it, right? What costs are we going to pay later because we didn't do this now, right? If we wait until after the release to then have to go and do the bug fix, right? There's what it's called Boehm's curve, which is a, I can share that, or someone maybe can share in the chat. Boehm's curve is like a sort of like a formula that you can use to show like how many hours will go into bug fixing, depending on the number of bugs and the number of people that you have. And basically, you will spend 10 times as much if you wait until after a release, is what that theory says. So I like to say things like that. Also, the market, there's so many people who have disabilities. In Japan, I think it's 7.6%, and they have a large spending capital themselves. So you're ignoring a huge market, right? So everybody, especially the people at the top, they care about money, as they should. They're paying our salaries. If you can frame things in a way that, speak their language, it's easier to convince them to put those hours in, right? And there are a lot of blogs and things out there with that information. So if you just, go out and find out like how to convince my boss to do accessibility, there's a lot of great resources out there, especially in English. So yeah, that's what I recommend. Cool. Okay, I think that's all the questions.